Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do so, here's a quote. The future influences the present just as much as the past. Friedrich Nietzsche. Our dear friend Andrew Berman is back again. If you've listened to the Culture Matters podcast, you've listened to me and Berman talk, or you don't like me or him. Thank you for coming back on the Culture Matters podcast, my friend. Thank you for influencing the mortgage industry with your family over the last 2+, maybe even 3 decades. Thank you for serving your clients and caring about everybody that you do business with. You're a gem. And today we're going to talk about all the things outside of our expertise. I'm just kidding.
like being on time, like being on time.
You were before we hit record. Yeah, you spent a lot of time with people that have been all around the map of success. Those upcoming, those tenured, deeply rooted in their industry at the highest level of performance. Do you believe that time management, or however you want to call it, I'm curious what you want to call it, but an intensity around time was a common factor of the most successful performers?
Yeah, like so there's two things in as it relates to time. I mean, there's first off people, we all have the same 168 hours a week, and it's what you do with it with those same 168 hours is really what counts, and how you make sure actually you're spending more time being productive, um less time procrastinating. But one of my revelations that I've realized, and I guess it should be obvious before, but as I'm as I'm driving probably inappropriately fast yesterday to get to a lunch as close to on time as I possibly can, and I'm just thinking about this, and I'm thinking about some of the most successful people in my world, people like Steve who have who are billionaires. I mean, like at that level, I mean, like they're never late, unless it's strategically late. People actually that are at a much higher level. Well, I consider myself to be successful, but I'm talking actually people who have had just unbelievable success in business. Um, they're not late and they're always early, and you can never be on time. You just be it's very difficult to be exactly on time, and and it was just something that dawned on me. Like, and I'm always like, oh, but I have this one last thing to do. I have this one last thing to do. And it is a habit of the most successful people in this world to always not just be on time, but be there early and ready.
Why?
So I think first and foremost, I mean, it's about being prepared and thinking about what you're about to get into, whatever venture or whatever experience you're about to get into. I mean, so I am racing inappropriately fast to get to this luncheon yesterday, um and I'm just like, oh, what am I doing? This is crazy. I knew when this was. I could have left actually a few minutes early. I could have actually been, slightly better prepared actually to kind of spend a little bit of time to do some research about the people I'm meeting with, to just kind of do like I would do a podcast, like I would do like if I was interviewing someone on a podcast. I'd always be on time, like I do webinars and podcasts, and I am always, extra early for a webinar or a
Mm.
podcast. It's you'll never see me late, showing up late for something like that. Well, okay, putting aside actually, when Jay Doran says, "Hey, wake up at 5:30 in the morning and be ready to do a podcast." So yes, I'm sometimes not always actually perfectly punctual with that, but it's just is one of these habits of the most successful people is they're never late, and generally speaking they're always early, but by at least 10 minutes in many cases. So Jay, let me ask you, like, are you ever late? Unintentionally, I should say. Are you ever late?
I think that's something I've really worked on over the last, definitely the last 5 or 6 years that I can recall. I don't think I am. You'd have to ask my enemies. Yeah. Well, I'll ask you, have I ever been late with you?
I don't think so. Pretty sure. No, no,
Well,
no.
then as far as you know, absolutely not. Why even question me? Yeah, no, it's I've never been asked that I recall. Um, I really put a lot of thought into being early to things because I would be worried to not be on time. Right? I think it's in the past, being late to things, not being intentional about it, would let people down. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, but it can happen. Yeah. I don't want to say it hasn't even ever in the last few years because I think I haven't, I'd have to really think it through. But it's something I put thought into to be early.
So, in terms of time management, like, you do a lot. You have a lot of companies you work with. I mean, you read a ridiculous amount. I'm always unsure how you do it all. Like, how do you practice time management? Like, do you actually know? Do you know exactly what you're going to be doing today? Do you have it written down in a schedule?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I color code my calendar. All the colors have different meanings. As soon as this is over, this is going to go from red confirmed, at 5:30 in the morning on a whatever day it is. I think it's Wednesday. It's going to go from red to green with a check mark. And then, yeah, I have an 8:30 podcast. Someone's going to interview me, or Tony's going to interview me. And then I'm going to prepare and do some reading and writing, and like the whole day, the midday, I'll be preparing for some interviews tonight. And like those are blocked in. The whole actually, now that you ask, yeah, every day is blocked out. Usually
Interesting.
weeks in advance. Um, and it's not just me that's organizing it. Jen is putting things in there and I'm working around it. So yeah, very, very, I'm pretty neurotic about that. And I
Yeah.
and I as I go through, I change the colors. Different types of things have different colors. Something tentative is going to be orange. Something confirmed is going to be red. Something executed is going to be green. Something rescheduled is going to be yellow.
And
Something that doesn't fit into like a podcast or a client partner meeting or something like that is going to be blue. Purple is like the generic. Those are the general colors.
so will you schedule what and I look at, if you're reading or and maybe this is not the right way to look at it, but taking the time to read or taking the time actually to go for a walk, you know, that's kind of leisure time. Would you schedule that? Is that yellow on your calendar? Is that like a, you know, like a required thing?
No, I don't leave my house. I walk on the Peloton treadmill, and I'll take, if I have phone calls that are not client partner meetings, which is Zoom, and I don't do podcasts on the treadmill, or I'd be walking. That would be great. Actually, could be something I could add. But if I have a phone call with a human being, you know, there's other things that have phone calls with. I have to like specify with a human being. Who else am I talking to? If I'm talking to a person, I'm going to be walking on the treadmill, and then like, because it's downstairs in the garage.
And use what
Oh,
the Peloton bike for subhumans?
I the bike, for anyone listening to this, I don't recommend it. In fact, it would be good. Maybe I could give it back to them. The reading thing, though, no, all the blank space is reading or writing. So it's just a given. That's what I'm going to do with my time. That's what I'm going to do with my body and like, if I'm not talking to people, whether obligated to, or fiscally, or obligated culturally, I'm going to be listening to an audiobook or pushing myself to read something. And it's very emotional. It's not like, it's all based on the passions. It's like, oh, I want to read this, and it's like, oh, no, let me go here. Like, but that's happening in all the blank space. So after this, I'll spend a few hours reading, and then, or listening, or both, because I'll do that too to keep myself going. Switch around before the next podcast.
So you're super strategic about your time. So what
You
do
think
you?
so? You would consider that
I,
strategic?
I think so. I mean, I think so. I think actually, you know, the how, you know, generally punctual you are. So what does that mean? Like, do people ever show up late for you? Like, for whether it's meetings or podcasts? I mean, you obviously interview a lot of very successful people, and I definitely know people that are very successful that are intentionally late. You know, like there's a guy who I used to do business with, and he would, as a power trip, would have you sit in his beautiful, fancy, actually, you know, waiting room that was in part of his office with cigars, and he would actually have his assistant actually, you know, come in there and actually just try to actually impress you. And I knew this was an intentional act, but you know,
Well, that
so
sounds like someone that I would have to tell them all the things that I really thought about them that
yeah.
were undermining their culture. That would be one of them. So, just for food for thought, that would be one of them.
Yeah, they're out of business,
Um,
man.
yeah, people are late. Yeah, sure. People have all sorts of reasons why they're behind. But I think I have meaningful relationships, and people like yourself that be willing to meet me super early at unorthodox times to do fun things together. Like, I have standing meetings every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday between 6 and 8 a.m. And I have, I'm proud that I have people in my life that want to meet me around those times. And they're generally on time. So, but yeah, things happen. You have enough meetings, right? I believe, if I'm recall it, like, time was not valuable to me, or I had to learn how to respect myself, respect other people.
Mm.
Still learning that. And one of those things was being intentional about where I was and where I wasn't. I think it's rooted in being able to say no and being able to say yes, and like interpersonal conflict. Right? Why do I talk about these things? Because at one time I didn't conceptualize them enough to have strong concept of myself, concept of these things. So yeah, I've worked on it. I believe that I've grown into it. And I let
Interesting.
people down still. I would want to think I don't. Right now, though, maybe because it's so damn early, I can't remember when the last time I was. Ask me at 3 p.m. Oh, yeah. It was like, just realized my Celsius is empty. And I was like, fuck, I brought the wrong one. So maybe if I went to go get a new one, I would have been late. But yeah, a few minutes early or 10 minutes early, just sit. And I like, preparing with the remarkable. Like, I have questions I want to ask on here. I pick the quote that forces me to be early for the shows because I always pick the quote before, and I pick it based on I'm based on emotion, based on intuition. Most of what I do is based on emotion and intuition.
Interesting. So, and like, do you start your day with any kind of prep, or you just go right into your stuff? Like, so like looking at your day, as you're scheduled, like, so your first, I'm assuming your first activity was this podcast. I mean, maybe you did stuff before, but like, do you flow right into it? It's like, are you just basically right out of bed, wipe the eye
If it's
snot out of your
early
eyes?
enough, I try to masturbate.
That's great. All right.
I'm just sick of
I wasn't
lying.
gonna
I'm
I
sick
wasn't
of
gonna say
lying.
anything, but on your ear, you might want to just clean that up a little bit.
Oh,
That's yeah.
stop. No, that's not really the case, is it? This is an audio podcast. God, it's like after dark in the Culture Matters podcast.
Well,
Yeah,
considering my and for the people that are audio only, this I'm gonna be able to appreciate this, but my camera autofocus keeps going in and out. It's almost like we're drunk. So it's you know
yeah. The
it's very
audience is drunk.
apropos. Let's have an after dark discussion here.
Oh, as soon as I wake up, I'm listening to a book and just getting. You know what I do? Eddie Perez told me to drink 2 bottles of water before I have coffee, and I like it doing that. So I'll drink 2 bottles of water and then wait as long as I can before I have some kind of caffeine. And, regardless of the science, I asked Dr. David Yerkes, who's been on the show a bunch of times, and he says there's mixed literature on the subject, but, there's a psychological element to coming up with rituals and doing things
Yeah,
that you always have to
100%.
factor in. So, got somebody I admire that says, do this. If I do this and I keep my word with this, whatever this is, there's a level of accomplishment that comes with it. So that's something that in the morning, drink water, listen, or physically read, depending on how early it is. If it's not like super insane early, I'm going to be definitely physically reading first because it's more mentally exhausting. I get anxious and I got to move around. And, I'm not I don't think a cliche reader where physically reading, if I had been, I probably would have went to school. I was more of an audible listener. So, but I've built up my ability to lift those weights in a sense to physically read, to discipline myself to get through because it's a different experience and it's a valuable experience. And so I'll go where the hard things are first. And I'm still trying to push myself and be able to read more in a day and not just go to what's easier for me. Although I learned so well with the Audible, I try to push myself in the things I feel weak. I'm a competitive person. I'm okay with losing, but I'm a competitive person. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but
Well, I mean, the more you lose, those victories are sweeter. So it's like it's um, you win every time, it gets boring.
Would you consider this though? This information I'm giving you would lead to that I'm a time management person or a like because I never, no one's ever asked. I haven't talked about. It's not generally something you talk about, in the day-to-day things with those that we serve. But you think that's a strategically sounding schedule
Yeah.
methodology? I just am trying to survive out here. I
Well,
don't know. I haven't put a lot of thought into it.
I think actually it's about being intentional with your time and and just like the little things like you do, like you drink 2 bottles of water, like you kind of have listen to something, and you keep a time schedule and because when you make commitments to yourself, and then you just talk about this, when you make commitments to yourself, I think actually I think and I don't want to be wishy-washy about my words. I know when you keep commitments to yourself, it's a lot easier to make commitments to other people. And this is something I've personally found this out myself recently as someone who's like I'm on I think like almost 50 days of doing a certain ritual every day, which by the way, you mentioned Eddie, one of those things actually is taking a freaking cold shower every freaking morning,
Oh,
as
you're doing
cold
it
as I
now.
can get it, actually, as cold as it get. Now the health benefits, it's arguable. It's not like an ice bath or anything like that. That is definitely, there's documented science that works. It's just uncomfortable, but it does something. It's a commitment, like you said, actually, that you're actually sacrificing something of yourself on a daily basis and committing to it. And if you can keep that commitment for yourself, you can keep commitments for other people. And that to me, actually, and I'm starting to actually, so I'm looking at my life. I'm constantly trying to actually, evolve to be actually better. And like, this is one area, like the being late or being just on time because I drove at potentially dangerous speeds to get to where I need to be.
Yeah, you said that multiple times. If this was China, there'd be police at your door right now.
And just in case, actually, if this ever comes up and is used as evidence, when I say dangerously,
Just pay the
I mean
ticket.
like 54 miles an hour if the speed limit's 55, just for to cover my ass there. But yeah, like it's these little commitments that we make, actually, whether it's to drink 2 bottles of water in the morning, before you get started, to take cold showers, to committed to some kind of a morning routine, and to like allow you to if you can make the commitment to yourself, it becomes easier. And maybe it's helping me become self-aware that I am being an a-hole when I show up, you know just on time, just ooh, made it. It wouldn't believe traffic. Whatever 17 different excuses I can come up with, actually, to say actually why I just made it there. I couldn't find parking. Got it here. But it's not it's not something actually that is going to help me grow and keep me that habit.
I agree with that for sure. Yeah, that's I would. Yeah, I agree with that. So if that's happening a lot, that's I want to take my buddy aside and say, hey, like, are you all right? Theoretically.
Yeah.
And you said, I have a question, actually. I wrote this down. Um, is the morale still high for the quote, you know, people that were ready a handful of months back for this current environment, this current economic environment that we talked about, the people that were ready for it, is the
Yeah.
morale still high?
The ones that really were ready, yes, 100%. It's there's no. I mean, I just talked to an originator yesterday. He's doing less business, but he knows that he right sized his business. He chose the right business model. and he's enthusiastic about the future. And we're sitting this having this conversation about how we feel bad that our friends are losing their jobs, losing their net worth. But he's I mean, he's not killing it. I mean, there's no question about it. He knows actually, it ain't 2021, but he's comfortable where he is right now. He's making a decent living, and he knows that the purge is on. It's people are leaving the business, are not able to survive. I mean, just yesterday, we got news of a decent sized mortgage operation that shuttered their business. And I feel horrible. I just I have a good friend of mine actually who works there, and I know other people actually who have been involved with the company, and this is a company actually that just has been a leader in the industry. But at the same point, listen, and I hate to say this. This is like, I probably should be thinking this out, but it just kind of popped into my head this morning, and I'm like, I hope we don't get in this topic, because it probably is not a great topic for me to be outspoken about. But um IMBs were not there for the mortgage broker, in 2010, when we were blamed for the mortgage collapse. I say we as like I'm a mortgage broker. I mean, I besides actually being a loan originator for my dad, actually, for a few months before we got into media. I'm not really a mortgage broker, but I identify as a mortgage broker. I've always been there supporting the mortgage broker. And you know something? 2010, Jamie Dimon, chairman of J.P. Morgan Chase, blamed the mortgage collapse on the mortgage broker. He went actually in front of Congress, and he pointed the finger at the mortgage broker. No one came to the mortgage broker's defense. Matter of fact, every bank actually shuttered their wholesale operation. No one actually was there for the mortgage broker. They gave the middle finger up to the mortgage broker and threw actually the mortgage broker out. And you know something? I hate to see actually, these mortgage bankers, going through what they're going through. But you know something? I do believe that the best model, the most efficient model, that we currently have, maybe the future actually will be different, but the most efficient model for the way actually people earn their money, the way people buy houses, the way the current structure exists for real estate and finance, is dealing with mortgage brokers, dealing with third-party originators who run lean, mean operations, and have actually the ability to have variable expense models that can kind of adjust for the best of times and the worst of times. And that, to me, actually, I feel actually is something. While I feel bad that these mortgage bankers are going through what they're doing, I don't think they should be getting the government handout that they're potentially looking for. Now this is a podcast that might not be aired till much later, after actually this crisis is kind of hit its peak, or you might be listening to it after. But I believe actually that the industry does in many cases need to right size, and companies that are not evolving, that are not changing their business model and looking actually at their organizations and saying, could we do this better? Could we be more efficient about this? Could we be more focused on, instead of being focused on the C-suite and catering to the needs of the C-suite, catering to the people that are on the street? And those are the organizations that are going to win in the future, that have actually a culture that's dedicated to the people on the street, not actually making it so the people in the C-suite can say, we've got the best culture. Screw those guys. I am sorry, but I feel horrible about saying this, because there are a lot of companies that are going to suffer if there's not government intervention. But I personally feel that
what would justify government intervention when all that's been done is the interest rates have gone up?
Well, because the interest rates have gone up. They claim is that they're destroying housing. is that there, but that's the Fed's intention. They need to cool the economy. I mean, this is that. So they can't just just say, okay, we're going to cool the economy, but we're going to still allow housing. No, but that's not going to stop it. That's not going to stop it. We need to lose jobs. We need to, and that's again, I guess it's easy for me to say actually this, being, somewhat comfortable with feeling actually that I am not in a place that I have to worry about that. But personally, I just think the Fed has got actually their eyes set to do something, and they need to take action and continue their course. And giving a hand up by buying mortgage-backed securities, in a spending spree, is not the way to do it. Now, they should not be, doing these, forcing the buybacks that the GSEs are doing. There should definitely be some government intervention in terms of that goes. But I personally, that's just my feeling, is that the Fed has set a course to kind of do what they can to cool down the economy, and they shouldn't veer off actually their goal. Now, whether we wait to get to the 2% inflation or not, or that's a whole nother conversation. But giving a handout to IMBs, I don't think is in the best interest. I think there are certain operations that maybe I want to say don't deserve to survive, because that's I hate those words coming out of my mouth, but they need to evolve. And if they're not willing to evolve, they need to be forced to evolve to have their operation becomes part of another operation and be better.
Well, isn't that what capitalism's about?
Yeah.
Or free market, free market?
Yep. I firmly agree.
What types of business models are not going to make it in this time?
I mean, business models who have who have a culture that is focused on the benefits of solely on the benefits of shareholders. I mean, I know that sounds like anti-capitalist to say something like that. But something, I think that's the right business model is actually if you invest in your people, if you invest in actually the people that are out there, doing the work, I think that's actually the way you can have the best dividends to pay your shareholders. And not being focused on the moves of your company from a quarter by quarter basis, but being focused on the long-term investments. And listen, I talk to companies now that and listen, of course, I spent a lot of time in the TPO space, so I'm hearing companies that are talking in terms of investing in their TPO, and I'm seeing companies actually they're saying, hey, I know it's going to be tough. I know actually that business is not going to be great. I know actually that next year is probably going to suck even more than this year, but they're doubling down. They're investing in systems. They're investing in technology. They're investing actually in the mortgage broker, which I believe actually is the most efficient distribution system.
2024, you're hearing that people, it's going to be harder than 23.
Yep. Definitely 100%.
Why?
I mean, rates are not going to go down anytime soon. I mean, unemployment is still really low.
I'd like it noted that I actually said this on the Culture Matters podcast with Bill Mervin and Phil Mancuso multiple times, that the rates were going to go up because of, like, my theory was politics on the meta level. So I just want to add that. Because in the beginning, people were thinking it's coming down. They're looking at it too logically. You have to look at it from a human lens of illogic.
Yeah,
100%. The conflicts of economic theory.
Yep.
And the current administration is more Keynesian. So they're going to be looking at things differently. But go on. Why is it going to be up?
Why is
Or why is it going to be harder, rather? Or from a macro sense, what's the reason 24 is going to be even more than 22 and 23? Or like, what's the word on the street?
oh, okay. So, and listen, I'm just my spectator view is I can't see rates, cooling off anytime soon. I can't see, the Fed's not going to pivot, which means, the cost of lending is not going to get less. You have that. You have, I believe also that, the cost for mortgage lenders to put the money out in the street is just going up because, regional banks have, they're they're not as excited as mortgage about mortgage debt as they used to be. Just it's not as sexy because we saw what happened earlier this year, with regional banks taking a bath with mortgage-backed securities. So I believe that the cost of doing mortgages has gone up, which basically I don't think we'll ever be able to go down to the low rates that we recently did, at least not in the foreseeable future. So you look at that, you look at the if you look at any time the Fed has ever made any kind of major pivot, has always been actually when like unemployment has been above 5%. We're a ways away from that now. Maybe there's other factors that they'll look at besides that, but I'm just from a data perspective, they've never seen a major pivot actually unless it's been above 5%. So you take that, and is also like some other things that I do have concerns about in terms of value and potentially like this shadow inventory that builders are potentially holding on to, and some of the things that that builders are doing to what I believe personally is artificially keeping prices where they're at by offering insane buy downs to allow mortgages in the fives. Now, yeah, some of those are done where the mortgages are being bought in bulk in advance, but to offer rates today in the fives, I just have to imagine actually that there is some significant buy downs, and they're just doing that to preserve value. So you look at those things, there's some other factors I have concerns with, in terms of real estate investors. I don't think next year is going to be a great year for housing, but through it all, and this is where I am excited about this, is and this is me with my rosy colored mortgage broker glasses on. I think the broker is going to win in this. I think actually the broker is going to actually be the person who's going to be able to survive through this with a variable cost model where they're going to be able to shut down. I mean, listen, like I just figured out today, for like about $100 a month, you can have an amazing tech stack, and with all bells and whistles, as a mortgage broker. You can outsource your compliance. You can do contract processing. So you can hire an LOA that's potentially offshore to do your non-NMLS licensed activities. And through all of that, actually, the broker is going to be ready, because at the other end of this, at 2025, it's going to be amazing. Like there's going to be like all of these people that are getting these crappy, rate mortgages are going to be actually refinancing. That's from this year, last year, next year, and then forget about all the debt that's building up, and forget about actually, because then of course, the government's going to come. Actually, they're like, okay, we're ready with paddles, and those paddles are going to be there are two things that come in those paddles. Like the shocker paddles that you get actually if you're clear, like, and it's low interest rates and incentives like first time home buyer tax incentives, things like that. They're going to be given to home buyers to get actually home buyers back actually at the closing table, and that's going to be an amazing time. And it is going to be the thing actually that as these hard times shed a lot of actually the weaker business models, which in many cases that's going to be distributed retail, is going to be the winners of that are going to be the mortgage broker.
What if rates just stay like for 10 years?
Okay, so like Japan, like we faced like a long time recession, like Japan, like a 20-year recession, and
Because that's something that could even happen in America anymore, I don't know.
I think.
But then my mind, when you were talking, I thought, what if what if they lowered the rates around the election time so that the populist side couldn't use that to get a win for the election? That came to mind. Like, because if things are really tough and shittier, the populists always, get buy-in during that time.
Yeah, I mean, what if
there's a separation of trust between the general person and the government, so the populists speak to that. Someone's like, if they were to dip them, then I don't know, just interesting.
Yeah,
Something that came to mind.
I know. It is something that
You truly never know what's going to happen.
It's freaking like listen, I can go to Atlantic City and put $50,000 on black. I could win, I could not win. It's as much of a gamble, but something I know actually that I can take that $50,000 and do something better with that. You have a choice
Maybe
of what
it's
you can
like,
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
where no, the pain of losing has to be better than the pleasure of winning with a lot of things. It's like, it goes back to the time stuff. It all comes to, it's our behaviors, are what we do in these times are going to really make our future. I was watching
100%.
David Rubenstein get interviewed. I'm a huge fan of David Rubenstein. If you don't know who David Rubenstein is, anyone listening, How to Invest is a great book that came out last year. The American Story. David Rubenstein founded Carlyle Group. He had worked under the Carter administration, and then became a lawyer and failed at that. So then he started a leverage buyout firm. Today, one of the most successful in history. He interviews people though, and the David Rubenstein Show. He's one of the best interviewers out there, but his background is private equity, and he was being interviewed. He was being interviewed at a college, and his response to, is private equity sound in 2023, 4 or 5, based on the cost of money going up? And he said, it's sound if we're getting inside these organizations and we're improving them. It's less sound if we're just capitalizing on leverage. Because when money's cheap, an example of like how leverage buyouts started in the 80s, which is what inspired him to get into it, because he told the story of in the 80s, there's this one guy that Bill something or another, he borrowed, he put $1 million of his own money into something and borrowed 99%, and he made 80 million on $1 million. And it was like the beginning of the leverage buyout. So David was like, I got to do that. And today he's one of the wealthiest Americans. Actually, fun fact, he's given more personally to buy back like documents and rebuild buildings in Washington, D.C., like as personally as a philanthropist. Really interesting about him. But anyway, all because of the money made from this industry. But he said, so back then, for example, when money's cheaper, if you have a lot of leverage, you can get a great, like a magnified return, because your return that you're getting back is based on how much you put in of your own money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you double the company and you have 10% skin in the game, it's a bigger return on your money than if you have 20% skin in the game, because you have less money in and you doubled. It's a magnification of the return, but there's higher risk with that. Well, when money gets more expensive, the risk goes up like crazy. And that's why all these people's net worth are going down based on their leverage. It magnifies the depletion of net worth when assets go down, the value of assets go down. Anyway, long story longer, he was saying that the way to succeed in 24, 23, 4, 5 in private equity is to add value. Now, everybody says that, or you hear that a lot. But like,
Yeah.
what does adding value really come down to? Well, being early, being intentional about what you do in the day, saying no to drugs, kids. I was like, dare dare. Like, remember dare in high school? I don't know, like
Sure.
DARE, dare.
Yeah, the red letters, like,
Yeah.
kind of like written like a tiger wrote it or something. Yeah.
Working. WORKING.
Yeah.
Say it with me, guys and gals.
Working.
Working.
Listen, real estate investing. I mean, it's like, because if you look at the numbers, actually, if you're investing in real estate today, like why? Well, like why don't you just buy the 10-year? Like, like it's
You know what is going to lead to success in 24? I have had to take a shit for the last 30 minutes, and I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving. I'm having this podcast with you, and I'll poop after. That's success. It's being able to get the job done.
Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is sponsored by Depends.
What the hell is that?
Adult undergarments.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh,
Listen,
God.
yeah, that's that.
We're not taking
This is
sponsors.
it is a time management tool. Because think about this: if you didn't have to go to the bathroom and you could just relieve yourself right now,
I
come
don't
on.
need more entitlements. I'm an American. I need to build my character. Now you sound like an IMB. What's in it for me?
I mean,
This is good.
what builds character more than a lump actually in your shorts? I mean,
So, like, I would like your thoughts though on not on the excrement here, but the idea that it's like David Rubenstein said, and I'll go a little more deep. He said, we got to get inside of these businesses, the companies that we bought with leverage. And we have to get the job done. We got to get our hands dirty. And not that you don't have to get your hands dirty generally if you're going to help someone succeed, but we got to get our hands dirty more. Example, people that there's a lot of listeners, they may have different coaching business or consulting. One thing is giving advice. Another thing is going in the trenches and getting your hands dirty, making calls, going on appointments, showing people how to do things. Like, it's time to get one's hands dirty.
Yeah, it was easy. It was easy for a long time. We had, listen, when money is cheap, it's easy, to be able to execute things and screw up and be able to make mistakes when business is flowing really, really well, you don't have to operate your most efficiently. I mean, premium financing, like life insurance premium financing, you're familiar with this concept?
Premium? No.
So premium finance, basically what you do actually is you partner with a bank to help pay for your premium. So it's for large life insurance policies, and basically you collaterally assign the cash value in the life insurance policy. Um, Now, these came about, premium financing came about when interest rates were in the sixes, and the monies actually you were able to get in these policies were just slightly higher than that, and the arbitrage was just enough actually that there was a little bit of money, and the banks would take actually that money, and it was guaranteed because a life insurance company was guaranteeing it, and if in worst case scenario you died, that was taken care of, and you as the insured, and the policy owner, you got the benefit of having this life insurance policy that you didn't have to pay the premiums for in full. So you might have to pay some, but instead of paying $500,000 a year, maybe you're just paying $75,000 a year. But so these look sexy when the interest rates on these loans were like 4-5%, but then all of a sudden they got lower, and they got down to the 2% and 3, and at that point, there was just a big wave of premium financing cases. But the problem was, and this is why, so I'm also I love the financial service practice. I stayed away from this stuff because every year it has to renew. You have to get a new loan every year. And when I saw this, I said, okay, the numbers look great now, but what happens if interest rates don't stay at this? And everyone, because for the last 10 years, we've been in such a low interest rate environment. Now, where's it going to go? It's going to go. What do you think? The interest rates are going to be at 8%? And yeah, so that's where we're at today. Now, all of these policies, all these people that look like heroes that put together these policies when the money was cheap, now are the biggest a-holes in actually these in the financial circle of these people. So when the money's cheap, everyone can look like a legend, but you have to actually be prepared for the times where it's not going to be cheap. And like you said, this is the time actually that you get your hands dirty. You figure out ways. Now there is workouts, there are all things actually that can be done with these things, but that's what it comes down to.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, but that's what it comes down to is basically, it's time actually to take the gloves off. You got to get actually some dirt under your fingernails, and it's time to actually get dirty and get involved, get out there, work your freaking ass off. I mean, listen, man, I have not woken up past 5 o'clock in like the last almost 50 freaking days.
Really?
And yeah, and actually at first I needed the alarm. Now actually my body wakes me up earlier and earlier, just because I'm excited.
Yeah, we should talk about that, because I do think it's time. It's a time to wake up earlier and work later.
Yeah, this is it.
And maybe if somebody's really good, they figure out, or they get really good at their highest and best use, or whatever that makes may be. If you start earlier and work later, you're going to figure out how much you really got to work and how smart to succeed. So I'd rather be the person that tries the getting up earlier than I was and go and working later than I was, and then readjust. You know what I'm saying? At least be willing to do more in times of uncertainty. And I don't see the fruit in times where money's more expensive. I think the success is market share and positioning more than profit necessarily, because the profit thinning has a relationship to do with macro, which is a real thing, and how on the micro, how efficient we are. Example, how many people of quality we want to be able to keep in the ship as we take on water. Like I may have to say, I may have to make a choice between somebody I value and myself. So that's where my personal lifestyle as an operator is going to be involved in the equation. I'm going to have to make choices.
Well, but and not sacrificing that person that you value might impact the overall organization. Where so it's not just so right sizing that ship, getting rid of actually the dead weight, or I mean, if we're talking about sacrificing people, it's I hate calling people dead weight, but you're doing it so that ship can maintain course. The ship has a goal, has a destination, and if you have that dead weight on, you're not going to be able to maintain course.
Whether that interaction will always have a relationship with whoever the operators are, the relationship they have with themselves, which in times of excess deludes them just as much as anyone else. Leverage, lifestyle, interpersonal relationships. And it really is a time of crisis that reveals the character of the operators. How do they live? What do they need to justify their existence? How far can they see in the future? Because based on their own delusions of grandeur and attachments, they could easily convince themselves that those that are very capable are not, to satiate the psychological needs, the dependencies that they've curated over a decade plus of excess, of thinking that it was them that's the reason that they have whatever they have. It was them. And so that's a dark, that's a part of the equation. So a lot of the people that are in positions of power, all of us, I mean, we've all been in this rising tide and have all been affected at some level. It's a human bias to associate one's success with themselves, even more than the fact that it's other factors that have to do with it. So there's a constant interplay between the lifestyle of the operator and the consequences that bears, constructively, deconstructively, on the institution that they lead, that they represent. An extreme example, Barry Waymiller in 2008 had 0 layoffs because their philosophy was, we're going to keep everyone. And they just worked through a series of intentional 4-week staycations, unpaid, willingly. That represents a unity.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's just an extreme example. It all depends on the current state of affairs in any culture. An institution that's operating at high cylinders has people bought in and has quality people a part of the movement. An institute, but now of course it's an evolution. It takes many years to, if culture doesn't come naturally, it takes years for culture to become clear. And so now in this industry, I believe, or specific to the lending industry, we're going to be seeing crisis reveals the culture. So crisis will reveal the current state of affairs. And that interplay between the lifestyles of the operators and how their institutions respond to the crisis will be very telling in the in the coming months. I would presume it's harder, for example, for a person in a position of power to pivot their organization if psychologically they're the type of person that would associate all of the success to themselves, for example, and not, in this case, our culture essentially, the cost of money being so it's raised all of our lifestyles over the last.
Well, and listen, and in fairness to that leader, in many cases, it's their decisions that led that ship. But I mean, at the end of the day, they have to understand actually that a captain, without actually a crew, is not going to be able to go anyplace. A captain actually, just saying,
No, yeah, Andrew, the best analogy would be like a general is a failed general if all their troops are dead. Like it really is that simple.
Yeah.
So
That's a great.
The CEO, whoever the manager of the equity is, they would get fired proportional to their ability to produce results, and the results have to do with the labor creating surplus or not. And if the labor is if the troops are dying, something's amiss, something's awry.
Yeah.
Now if we're killing our own troops, also something is amiss, something is awry. The question is, are we learning, like this thing, when you're working with operating principles, it's about learning, it's about repentance, it's about constant innovation and reintegration. There's so many books on business, they don't have a lot of meaning, and the types of people that are running this world, creating these new ideas, a lot of the time they don't read, right? They're not learners, until they get people to help them do those things that they can trust. They're bootstrappers. They make things happen. They're working, right?
Yeah.
They have their hands dirty and they have to learn the hard way. So, in the defense to all those entrepreneurs out there listening that might feel a little bit self or insecure right now with some of this conjecture, I think that if you're willing to learn from mistakes and continue moving forward, you're probably a decent person. If you're unwilling to acknowledge your own inadequacies, even if you try to be a decent person, you're likely going to just cause a lot of chaos in people's lives. And the worst thing is when you're an employer and you think you're responsible when you're not, because then you're just going to really ruin a lot of people's lives and never take responsibility. Like those types of people, they cause a lot of problems in this world. So no, I would argue that the consequences of poor leadership are people are dying in the streets. I mean, we're going to battle, we're competing with people, and if I'm losing troops, the plan was off, we weren't prepared, something was awry in the communication channels,
You didn't support your troops.
you didn't have good. Here's an example. King Philip II created the Sarissa. It was a 21-foot long pole. That was technology. They were able to beat in Macedon, the hoplites, the best army in Greece, because their poles were longer. Like, it's that simple. It was technological advancement. The formations were stronger. There was attention to detail. There was practice. There was preparedness. There was buy-in, because he was the type of leader that unified the tribes of Macedonia under one leader. Like, Alexander the Great took that army and conquered the world in 10 years and lost very few troops. And so, like, a lot of the men that were with him in the beginning were with him at the end. Leaders that don't have people that are with them for years and years and years are not leaders. They are something else that we're trying to figure out, theoretically. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting time of observation to see how many armies are slain essentially. But all types of those things, those are it all of it reveals current states of affair. And the beauty of my gig is I get to nitpick every single and criticize and deconstruct every single nuance of corporate culture with the intention to make it better. And as long as who's ever at the helm of it is interested in getting better, things generally get better over time, which is great. But if they're not, and generally they're under the guise that they are, but they're not, then things don't get better. And then times like this, where it's harder, the opportunity is missed.
Yeah.
The opportunity is missed.
They might survive this, but they're not going to actually prepare themselves for the next boom.
Thriving in a market like this is excitement. It's going deeper with old relationships. It's bringing in new relationships. It's delivering on promises. It's saying no to drugs, kids. It's working harder. It's working smarter. That's thriving. It's pushing more out. It's delivering on promises and investing more into marketing, into building the brand. And it's paid for years from now. Like, that's in times where things are tougher. It's pulling back the bow. You don't hit the target until things equilibrium starts to happen. When demand catches up to supply, there's an overwhelming exponential growth curve that occurs. And that's where it puts strains on the other side of the equation, which naturally is in contradiction with the marketing, sales, brand side of the equation, which is the operational side of the equation. And that's all tied to the management's evolution. The management's evolution of emotion, the management's evolution of education, the management's evolution of experience, and being able to actually be someone that could speak the word and live the word. That dichotomy of sales, marketing, branding, operations, fulfillment, all those, to be not a one-dimensional man or woman or one-dimensional leader, manager, but a multi-dimensional manager and leader. That takes learning and time and experience.
What do you mean by that? Multi-dimensional leader?
Multi-dimensional leader is someone that is not undermining one part of the organization, propping up another. They're the type of person that's saying, we all have value. Without each other, we can't get to the outcome for the service of the customer. And my role is to figure out how to create those feedback loops, that communication, so all departments of the organization can work towards the goal of service. It's not, only this matters or only that matters. It's going from the absolutes to the inclusions. That takes time for leaders, for managements to grow into, generally.
Can you give it
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
We get to a position of power, oftentimes we're coming through one channel. So I might have been an amazing salesperson.
Yeah.
And then I decided to start my company. So in my temperament, I am a people person more than, let's say, a back office person in my temperament.
Yeah.
So it's going to take an increased education, awareness, qualitative evolution of myself to empathize and learn other parts of the business, to integrate them. Or if I'm the type of person that I came through the operational side and now I'm in a position of ownership, my biggest woe might be no one knows I exist. And I'm like completely against marketing our company because I have such pride in work. People that market, they're all liars. I have my own conspiracy about those that I consider inauthentic to the task, inauthentic to the service of the customer. And so what where I have to grow is being open to sharing the word, being open to letting people know that we exist. So every business owner comes through one path or another. Now, some they end up experience for whatever reason, whether it's intentionally or just coincidentally, they might experience all facets of the organization. Why do you think some cultures and very historical, amazing brands, they would actually make sure someone learned every job?
Okay. Yep. No, it
Because
makes
what
a lot of sense. Like
happens
I think like Enterprise, I
phenomenologically,
think does that. Enterprise Rent a Car. I don't know why that popped in my head, but
well,
yeah, yeah.
so in theory, one is doing that. They're building a level of empathy and education and awareness
That
to
multidimensional. Yeah.
increase the likelihood of communicating and working towards the goals with the other departments.
Because your soldiers, everyone knows, okay, they have been in my shoes. They know exactly what it's like, to
That's
be
one
out
piece of
there.
it.
Yeah.
There's also the piece of the actual human, the
Okay.
the person that's
Yeah.
done that. It'll change how they think. It'll
I
help
get
them.
what you're saying.
It'll
Yeah.
help them think.
That multidimensional person knows actually what actually the salesperson knows what the janitor has gone through, knows what the person in HR is going through. They've experienced all of these levels.
There'll be a stronger operational leader that will unify, because all groups, there's infighting despite leadership. I'm sorry, in the absence of leadership, there's infighting. In the absence of leadership, there's infighting in an institution. Siblings, fight over toys. In the absence of parenting, there's, Cain and Abel. And so how the leadership relates to those that are subordinate to them, to those that are at the peer level, and to those that they work for. So example, subordinate to them would be those below them on the hierarchy. Peer level would be their partners, and even interpersonally in their personal lives. And those they work for would be shareholders. And in the absence of shareholders, it's their lenders, those that lend them money, give them lines of credit, or maybe they're investors. We're all accountable to someone, even if we're not aware that we are. We're accountable to the market. So
Shareholders. No.
yeah, and we might be the shareholders, like we own 100% of the company, but then we're accountable to our family. And we could own 100% of the company and have no family life because we're completely in power. We're not accountable to anyone except the IRS, who we don't pay, because we have people to help us figure out how to do that too. So it could go dark real quick. I guess the reason we're on this part of the subject, I think what came to mind is times of crisis reveal culture.
Yeah.
Times of crisis reveal the current state of affairs, what the values actually are in real time.
Yeah.
Values are idealistic projections of what actions can be. Values and projections, like what I say I am and what I am, can be congruent relative to self-awareness and character. But they do not have a causal relationship. Just because I say I'm this doesn't mean I'm this. Just because I say I'm a culture advisor doesn't mean I'm that. Spend some time with me and see who I am. So times of crisis reveal the culture, and we're going to see what people are really made of. And I judge a general based on how many troops survived the battle. And I judge them based on that. How prepared are we? Why did we win at what cost do we want to win the battle? Or there's 2 men left? No, if we want to win the war, you win the war by having as many troops survive as possible. The more they survive, they get honors, they get badges. When they graduate, they get land, like the Roman model, they get land eventually. They have to live to get those rewards. They have to live to inspire future generations. And we want to keep as many on the battlefield as possible. And if we're surrounded by foolish military men and women, well, then we're foolish. So there's no matter what, we can learn. We can learn where our faults are if we're in management.
Yep. And have culture not just as a bullet point in your employer brochure.
But keep in mind the bullet point of the employer brochure, like I posted, this thought comes up to me a lot. It's one of my favorite quotes for this reason. He who would learn to fly one day must first learn to stand and walk and run and climb and dance. One cannot fly into flying. People that are interested in culture, it takes years for them to start really understanding what it is in behavior. So you can't fly into flying. And the majority of companies don't understand culture. They cannot. I mean, in the sense that statistically companies go out of business. Companies that understand culture do not go out of business. They evolve and they end up owning the world. So by and large, companies do not understand culture. People do not understand culture. People are of strong character or they are not. The question becomes, are those with a weak character, can they build their character? I believe they can. That's why I chose this work. And I could be wrong, by the way, but I believe they either adapt to those that they want to follow, or they actually just do evolve. And I'm trying to figure out which one it is. But regardless, people cannot fly into flying. So times of crisis like this will reveal the industry for what it's really made of, who's really in it for the long game, and what types of people they actually are. Crisis does that. It creates opportunity for change, for redemption, for pride comes for all the fall. So once you fall, it's like, am I going to go back to the other thing, or am I going to do this new thing? Right? Binary, dark, light. Like, am I going to go back in the dark, or am I going to pursue the light? You know, kind of. So the industry is falling in this, it sounds like.
Fallen or optimizing. Through this fallen, we're revealing actually, our best practices. We're seeing actually, where we are surviving and thriving, and those actually that have the true culture.
I think in the future, like 50 years from now, governments are going to audit leaders after, like, and then they're just going to get rid of them and put new people in.
Do you think there'll be a culture score?
If
like a credit score, like a organizational culture score?
Absolutely. Because if human nature doesn't change, which is like what the nature of humans, like, because that's, then absolutely, we're just going to be held accountable by whoever, Anyway, we could say that for part 2, I guess, because we are out of time here.
Thank you,
Andrew. In closing, what do you think?
I think it's time to get up earlier. It's time to work your ass off. It's time to have fun. It's time to actually build and build and build, not be focused on profits. It's time to actually, be focused on your people. It's time to be focused on doing the right thing for the long term. Keep in mind that you need to be lean and mean for 2024, and be ready for an amazing, hopefully 2025.